procrastination. I stopped saying I've got to wait for good things to happen to me, and I said I'm going to grind. I'm going to fight. I'm going to work. I'm going to press toward. I'm going to learn. I'm going to do everything in my power every single day. I'm going to do everything in my power to become a victor and not a victim.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Patrick, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the 5 things I wish I knew when I first started working out. So this is going to be the 5 things that I know now that I wish I knew before, and if I knew these things, when I first started, I definitely would have made a lot more progress than I did in my first couple of years. Alright, so let's get right into it. So the first thing is being scared of the compound lifts. Now, if you don't know what a compound lift is, it's basically any exercise that uses more than one muscle group to work together to complete the movement. So the 3 main ones are the bench, squat, and deadlift. Now, I was more comfortable, with the bench and the squat than the deadlift, just because I found it easier to get form with those, and my mobility restrictions were mainly for the deadlift, and I did work on some with the squat, but even in my first year I really didn't train the squat because I didn't really care about legs, and then 2, as a kid I didn't want to stun my growth, which is obviously a myth, but I didn't know that at the time, so I really stayed away from the deadlift and the squat just because I was scared of hurting my back, I was scared of getting injured, I was scared of stunting my growth. So for at least the first year and a half, and then even the deadlift the first 2 years, I really didn't even train them at all. And for that reason is a reason why today my legs are still very underdeveloped compared to my upper body. And these are the lifts that mainly, people in the gym are using the most weight on. So it can be intimidating to see them when you're first just starting out, and everyone's lifting these heavy weights on this movement, and you got to start with your 5s and your 10 plates. But that shouldn't really matter, guys. I talk a lot about, being insecure and just not caring about what other people think, and that's a big reason why I stayed away from these lifts. And also, just they're very important. Just you want to make sure that your form is correct on them. Make sure you're doing everything to, work out mobility issues so that you can perform them safely. And then a main thing is figuring out what works for you. So a reason why I never really trained my deadlift very seriously is I worked up to 315, and I did this conventional, but my form wasn't the best, and I never really felt good with it. It always kind of felt like, a slight little tweak here, a slight little something that doesn't feel right here, tightness here, and that's why I kind of never really trained that seriously. So I worked my way up to 315 conventional, and then I couldn't really get the hang of it. I was too scared to go over that weight, and I never really trained it consistently after that until recently when I switched to sumo. And when I did that, I saw my deadlift go from 225 on sumo once I had the form correct to 385 within a matter of months. So that was mainly just because I already had the strength to do that weight on those lifts, but I just didn't have the form down, and I didn't have the proper kind of mentality going toward it. So number 2 would be proper training frequency, and what I mean by this is not doing a bro split and doing a push-pull legs instead, or doing something else that you can manage to hit each muscle twice per week in the same week, and have proper frequency with that. But basically, in my first year of training, I did the bro split, which is where you just hit one muscle group per week, and that doesn't allow for proper frequency. And studies have been done, and a lot of people recommend you do some type of training split where you do each muscle group twice per week. So that would be a really main thing that I would say can limit your progress in the first couple of years when you're not hitting proper frequency on your muscles. So make sure to hit everything twice per week, and the split that I suggest to do this with is the push-pull legs, which is basically you do push-pull legs, rest, and you repeat that. And what push is a chest, tricep, and shoulder workout. What pull is back, bicep, and rear delt, and then legs is calves, quads, hamstrings, glutes, and sometimes lower back. But so that would be my second tip, is definitely get your training frequency proper. Now, number 3 would be worry about a mind-muscle connection. When I first started out in the gym, I didn't even know what that meant, or I didn't even know really a mind-muscle connection existed, but it definitely does make a difference. Don't just worry about lifting weights up and down. You can do that for your compound lifts when you're focusing on strength, but any type of, accessory, like a incline dumbbell press or a cable fly or a bicep curl or a tricep push down, don't just worry about using the max weight and going up and down. Worry about really feeling the contraction in that muscle when you're performing a rep, all the way stretching either at the bottom or the top, and then all the way squeezing, when you're performing each repetition. And really just think, use your mind to create a mind-muscle connection where you're thinking about just using that muscle and stretching and contracting that muscle to do the movement, and it does make a ton of difference. So number 4 would have to be not progressively overloading properly and utilizing rep ranges to the best of your ability. So when I first started, I would kind of just go in, do my 3 sets of 10 on everything, go do my 4 sets of 10 on everything, and not really manipulate rep ranges and weights. And that's a really big mistake, because you do want to be progressively overloading to constantly overload the muscle, forcing it to adapt and get bigger and stronger. So an example of progressive overload is, let's say you go in with a bicep curl for 20s, okay? So let's say you can comfortably do, 3 sets of, let's say, 10 reps with 20-pound dumbbells. The next week you go in, you want to do 3 sets for 12 reps with the same 20 pounds. Then the next week, 3 sets, 15 reps. The next week, then after you go 15 reps, the next week you want to, increase the weight. So let's say you go to 22.5 dumbbells, then lower the reps back to maybe, let's say, 8 reps. Then the next week, 22.5 pound dumbbells again, take it up to 10 reps. And you constantly do that so that you're either you're always increasing the rep or you're always increasing the weight. So that's a way that, you want to manipulate rep ranges and manipulate weights to constantly be progressively overloading to always grow, bigger and stronger. And finally, number 5, the last thing, is not warming up properly and not stretching or worrying about mobility. So back to the sumo deadlifts, I had a massive problem where I couldn't really, get into that sumo stance because my hip adductors were so tight, because 1, I never warmed them up properly, and 2, I never took the time either in the morning or before bed to do a static stretch with them and work on, flexibility and mobility. And same thing goes for squats. I really had trouble getting into depth and overloading my squat because my ankles and where my calves were very tight, so I never had my knees properly in place to do squats or to do deadlifts or anything like that. And that just carries over to even functionality, like you're playing sports and you turn the wrong way and you can hurt something, you can tear something, you can just hurt a lot of things a lot easier if you're not stretching and you're not doing mobility. And I think it's very underrated, because you don't want to be one of those guys who's got all these big muscles but you can't be functional. You can't go for a sprint without worrying about tearing something or tweaking something, or you feel tight all the time when your muscles are always uncomfortable and all that kind of stuff. So that would be a really good tip that I would suggest, and I wish I knew about when I first started working out, is have a proper stretching and mobility routine, and also doing a proper warm-up. So you got to take at least 10 to 15 minutes on any type of lower body day to foam roll, do some type of dynamic warm-up, which means that you're moving while you're warming up. You don't really want to do static stretching, but you want to do some type of dynamic warm-up, some type of mobility routine before you do any type of squats or deadlifts. That will greatly increase your performance and very much reduce your chance of injury. And then take 5 to 10 minutes on your upper body days to warm up your rotator cuffs for bench, warm up your back for pull day and all that type of stuff. So those are my 5 things that I wish I knew before working out. So I hope that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. And if you did, learn something from this video, please leave a like, subscribe for more videos, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.